Each week on Culinary Confidential, Christina Cates, a seasoned foodie who has worked at some of New York City's top restaurants, will share her passion for the culinary world. Whether you're a professional chef, a restaurant enthusiast, or a lover of good food, Christina dives into the heart of hospitality, exploring the trends, triumphs, and challenges facing the food service profession. And you won't want to miss her chats with some of the most interesting and influential industry voices. And now, please take your seat at the table as Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates starts now, exclusively on AM 970, The Answer.
Welcome to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates. This show is produced in association with my dear friend, Lucas A. Ferrara. Okay, tonight brings us to show number 50. I almost can't believe it myself. This has been such an incredible journey. Season 1 of Culinary Confidential is winding down, and I'll have the 1-year anniversary show in a few short weeks. It's absolute craziness how fast this year went by, and the amazing people I was able to interview and were connected with is not even fathomable to me. But I'll dive more into the past year for the 1-year anniversary show on Sunday, September 21st. Season 2 will pick right up on the 28th of September, and I'll have on the show the literal best bar in the world for 2024 and 2025, Handshake Speakeasy out of Mexico City. I can't wait to be joined by them and talk about how they're making their mark in the beverage industry and helping shape a global cocktail culture. It's going to be really cool. But back to tonight's show. Joining me in the studio tonight is Chef Christian J. Fischer. Chef Christian has built a diverse culinary career for himself. While growing up in Eastern Austria, he was surrounded by his 10 siblings and cooking in his family-run hotel. He did a 5-year apprenticeship under European master chefs, and at age 14 became a certified European master chef, baker, and butcher. By the age of 19, he opened his first restaurant, and by the time he turned 23, he had 6 of them. Fast forward a bit, and eventually Nestle scooped him up and acquired him to develop restaurant concepts for hotels here in the U.S. In addition to Nestle, Chef Christian has held high-level positions with Compass Group as their chief culinary officer before transitioning to more of a consulting route post-COVID in an effort to support chefs and hospitality professionals. His mission is to help creatives and leaders transform their personal brand and business strategy through coaching, writing guidance, and consulting. He positions himself as a leadership guide who emphasizes storytelling and authentic identity branding. Chef Christian is also the host of a cool podcast called The Disruptive Chef, and that's how he and I connected. I was recently a guest on the show and had just like a really nice time talking with Christian, so I figured I would turn the tables on him and have him join Culinary Confidential for the hour. And we'll talk more about the Disruptive Chef podcast later in the hour and everything he's doing on that platform. But Chef Christian is extremely purpose-driven, and human connection is very important to him. He founded a company called the Fischer Research Group, and it's within the walls of this company where he coaches leaders and businesses on how to break through their personal and professional ceilings to be the best they can be. He focuses on self-reflection, culture-driven leadership, operational excellence without burnout, and has a track record that definitely delivers. Chef Christian Fischer, welcome to the studio tonight.
Excited to be here.
I've really enjoyed getting to know you over the last few months, and I'm so grateful you made it into the studio tonight from Connecticut. For the first part of the show, I want to talk about something that means a lot to you, and that's leadership in the hospitality industry. I've been in leadership roles before when I was managing restaurants, and it's tough. You're almost like a therapist for your employees half the time, listening to complaints and critiques and oftentimes employee-on-employee squabbles, and it wears on the head after a while and takes someone with a solid foundation to lead and guide in the most treacherous waters. So I want to ask, what does great leadership look like in the hospitality industry today?
First off, that's a really good question. And I don't really know if I have the answer to that, but I can tell you what we do. So all of the stuff we do is not something we read about or, seen. It's all the stuff we have learned over the years. And over the years, I have grown as a manager and in my leadership skills. So for me, leadership is really simple. It's how am I going to show up for others and how are the others going to show up for me? And it's as simple as that. And within food service, for me, there's 3 basic things I always look at. Number 1, it's a job. And not everybody wants to be here all the time. And it's
That's
also
right.
one of those things where you look at and say, hey, I know I care about the outcome of the day's evening or what we're doing as a group a lot more than anybody else. The second thing is, how can I support them with what's going on? And as you probably know, there's probably stuff going on in your life. And how can I support them? And that's, you said it perfectly. That's where the therapist comes in.
Yeah, the therapy hat that you have to wear.
Because unfortunately, if you can support somebody in that, I think there's a lot of longevity in that because they cannot rely on you. They also, believe in you. And then the third thing for me is you need to lead by example. And I always tell my daughter, on our drive down, I might have gone too fast. And I always said, do as I tell you, not as I do. So, but I think in the food service industry, it's really simple. The greatest thing about the food service industry is there's instant satisfaction. There's instant opportunity for you to kind of correct somebody. And I always called it take 5. So if you just take 5 minutes, walk away from what you do and just reset yourself. There's something I learned a few years ago from Wayne Dyer. I came down here to New York City, and I think I told you the story. I went to the wrong venue, and I happened to be at Wayne Dyer's. I thought, I was supposed to go to Tony Robbins. So I go, and I was like, he must be opening for Tony or something. We go there, and as we walk in, the usher takes us all the way up front. And Wayne Dyer says, oh, come up and talk to us. I was like, oh, my God, what does he want? And he asked, so why are you 40 minutes late? And I had all the excuses. And he says, okay, turn around and look at this, 14,000 of your closest friends. Hey, guys, this is what you look like when you come late. Okay. And I was like, there's our lunch break. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And but then he said something which really set off the foundation of everything you do. And he said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Wow. And he took us for lunch. And I said to him, I don't even know what it means. I don't know. On the drive home, I don't know what it means. I didn't want to come back the next day, but I came back, and it set the foundation of what we do today, because sometimes we get so fired up, and especially in the restaurant kitchen, it's a very high pressure environment.
Yes.
And so the take 5 came from sometimes you just need to take a step back.
Yeah.
And change the way you look at things.
And regroup a little bit. Take that breath. That was great. But what do you think is the biggest misconception about being a leader in the hospitality industry today?
This is really simple, that I need to be like what I see on TV. I love some personalities on TV which scream and yell. I think the days of screaming and yelling are over. And at the end of the day, for me... I
say we bring them back.
Listen, I was chased with a meat fork in my younger days. I'm not sure if that's necessarily
You were chased with a meat fork?
Yes. I burned pork chops, and my chef said he is going to stick the meat fork so far in my stomach that there's going to be room for 6 bear frankfurters in the back.
Was this in Austria?
Back in Austria. I never burned another pork chop.
Yeah, but see, it worked. Intimidation sometimes does give you the result you want.
But I just think today you get a lot more out of it in putting yourself in the shoes and then see what motivates them. Because what motivates me, it's not what motivates you and anybody else. So if you know what fires your team up, what gets them excited, what they want to do, I think it's a lot easier to manage than doing it by fear.
Yes. I mean, there's a lot to be said with that. But the restaurant industry can have some toxic behaviors and, even sometimes like negativity in the team environment. How do you handle that or navigate that? So
unfortunately, there is sometimes you need to make hard decisions, and that's in any industry. But I think it's more, in our industry, because alcohol is always available. Some other stuff is always available.
Correct.
So for me, sometimes if you need to make the hard decisions, you need to make the hard decisions. And sometimes what I have learned, it's usually a person which is actually a really good worker. And they think they...
remind me to tell you a story after this.
Because I'm so good at I'm allowed to be a punk at the end of the night. And sometimes if you, unfortunately, let that person go, it sets the group up for success. And so for me, I always had that really simple 3 strikes. And 3 strikes is, hey, did you do it intentionally? Or did he do it? Sometimes we do make mistakes. Mm-hmm. But for me, what we don't tolerate it was don't question anybody's intent.
So the story I was going to share with you, when I was working at the Palm restaurant in Tribeca, we had this one bartender who was a career bartender. He had worked all over New York. He had even worked, I think, in other countries. He was a fantastic employee. He was our closer. Great presence behind the bar.
Yeah.
Was meticulous with cleaning. It was a priority for him. Guests loved him. And I had no idea that he was drinking every single night behind the bar. And, you know, corporate restaurant policy is no drinking. This isn't like the dive bar down on Chambers Street where, you know, like a Raccoon Lodge or whatever, you could throw some back. Like, there was a no drinking policy. So after a few years, he had an episode one night where he was very, I don't want to say aggressive, because not physically aggressive, but he was combative with me.
Yeah.
And I this was so a pattern for him. And then finally someone said, "Don't you know he's wasted right now?" And I was like, no, not him. He's such like a square, a stickler, like always doing the right thing. They're like, he drinks every night. And I had no idea. You never smelt it on his breath.
Yep.
His work never slipped. And I had to make the hard decision then. I had to fire him the next day because, you know, it's creating a culture where you're accepting that kind of behavior in the restaurant.
I think that's exactly what it is. Because if you let it slip once, people kind of forgive you. If you let it slip all the time, they say, hey, it's okay because you're a good employee, you get away with it.
Right.
You know? And so, unfortunately, no. That's one of the things. And what I have learned is usually some of the best employees.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's the industry.
And I'm working on a show about the dark side of the industry, which...
It's like light gray, it's not dark.
It could be pretty dark. It's probably not as dark now as it was back in the 80s or 90s, but...
I think people are gotten better in hiding it. I think it's pretty dark.
Correct. Okay, when you're developing future leaders, what do you look for when you're hiring them?
So for me, is it a cultural fit? There was always something we looked at. Everything else I can teach you. How to make a good sauce, how to follow up on things, how to order the right things. I can teach you. So for me, it was, is it a cultural fit? Does that person believe in what the company believes in? Does the person believe in what we believe in? And is that person looking at executing at the end of the night the way we do? And everything else is a learnable skill. So for me, it needs to fit. I always had this thing. I always looked like I was an FBI person. I had all the people lined up on photos of them, and I wrote down what they really good were under some of the learning opportunities. And I said, hey, if we bring somebody in who has disability, I think it could benefit the group. So we always looked at when we hired somebody, how does it benefit the greater good? And then also, how does it benefit the team? Because if I hire somebody for a particular skill, it might be just good for that location. It might not be good for another location.
Right.
So for me, I always had this thing where I said, hey, let's line them up, see what is missing, and let's find somebody to make the group whole. And at the end of the day, for me, that was always a key thing. How can we make the group better than they were yesterday?
So what do you think of the workforce these days, the younger generations?
I have Gen Zs at home. Yeah, we have 4 kids. But I also think what has changed for me, it's really simple. They're expecting a lot more from an employer than what we used to do. So, but I think if you do the right thing and if they're passionate about it, I think they're equally as good as anybody else. They take a little bit more work from a management side because of just who they are. And I always said a person which is really good with a phone and social media can do a lot more harm than when the health department comes in. So you need to manage that aspect of it. But for me, I just think we need to look at this a little bit differently. And for me, overall, if you have any kind of company today, you can't run it the way you did 20 years ago because the workforce totally changed. So therefore,
the work ethic is just very different now.
Yeah. So I honestly believe, if you're asking me the crystal ball, what I think where the future is, how about I hire somebody for a shift? So if I know I have a busy lunch, I hire a different person than for dinner because the skill is different. Because for lunch, sometimes it needs to be faster, but for dinner, it needs to be more intricate. It's not the same skill. So for me, where I think work is going to go, that a lot of people are going to work for 4 or 5 companies, not just for one.
That's interesting. That's a great point.
Just work a shift. And I honestly feel that's the future, and that's where we're going to go.
Because, back in the day, even when I was operating restaurants, you would have the same person on the line for the opening, the lunch shift, all the way through close sometimes. You're talking about like a 12-hour day.
Yeah, different skill set. Totally agreed. And then for me also, I grew up, I always heard, breakfast just gets in the way of lunch. But for me as a person, breakfast is really important. And so for me, I always looked at it, why would people say that? And it's somebody who is not passionate about breakfast. But there's a lot of guests which are passionate about breakfast. So for me, we need to look at, we need to look at this differently. And I honestly believe in a very short period of time that somebody's going to work for 5 people, not just for one, and do what they're passionate about and what they're good at.
All right, so we were talking about culture at one point. How do you create the culture that people want to be a part of? Because that's very difficult.
It is very difficult. And sometimes you need to, I keep saying the same thing. You need to change the way you look at things because...
Perspective. Bring a different perspective.
Because for me, it's really simple. What is the makeup and what excites one location is different than another location. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle, which have multiple locations. They try to manage them all the same. Unfortunately, it's not the same. And the same food might go out there, but the way people are being managed, what excites them and why they have to work is totally different. So for me, you need to look at every location separately and, just instill, I always call it the 80-20 rules. So if you can be 80% who we need you to be as an organization, 20% you can be what you need to be for the unit. And so that's seemed always to work for me, but it's really difficult. And it's a lot of people struggling with that.
Yeah. I mean, I sometimes think now, will I open my own restaurant one day? And I don't know that I would be good at it because of the workforce that's out there right now, and I'll tell you why. I have a very old school work ethic mentality, and that's how I was raised because that's how my parents are. And when I am doing a job, I kind of just come and put my head down and work, and I don't ask a lot of questions. And in this environment right now, employees challenge a lot of things.
Yep.
They ask a lot of questions, and it's almost like they're interviewing you rather than you interviewing them. And I don't think I could tolerate that. And if you came into a restaurant as an employee in the front of the house and I saw you on your cell phone, I would throw it out the window. Right? I don't think I'm made for it anymore. You have a much softer heart than me, Chef.
No, I think it's really simple. If you want to put out a great experience, and for me, I always told the staff, we're not in the food service industry, we architects of memories. Because
I like that. I'm going to steal that. Let me write that down. Architects of memories.
Because if somebody comes in and has a business lunch, the food is secondary. It's a great experience, and when they leave, they need to know, hey, this was a really amazing experience, and the food was just a confirmation. And the same for dinner. If I have somebody who has 10 people come for a wedding, or if they have a birthday party, their need is a lot different than somebody who has just a dinner by themselves with a loved one. So for me, I always told my staff, it's really simple. Put yourself in the shoes. You're not a waiter anymore. You're not a cook anymore. You're an architect of memory. So if you can personalize it, if you can be seen and or not seen, whatever you need for the guest at that time,
that's right.
It's really important that they have a great experience. I want the facility to be the atmosphere where they choose to do that. Yeah. And I want the food to be the confirmation. And when people leave, I want them to say, hey, we had an amazing time, Christina. It was so good to spend time with you. The place is absolutely spectacular and the food was spot on.
That's right.
And that's what we need to do.
That's a home run. And that's how you build a repeat guest because they feel safe with the experience in your environment. Okay, I know you're super big into AI. We've talked about this a lot, even on your show. How do you think AI is playing a role in the leadership industry?
So I think there's a few things happening with AI. And if you look at what just recently happened, where AI made a copy of itself as it was told that it needs to reset or shut down. So I think there's a little bit of self-preservation in there. But I think there's 3 things AI is really good at is kind of bringing together information from all over the world.
Yeah,
What
absolutely.
it's not good at yet is how can I make it a personalized experience for you? And I honestly feel where this thing is going to go, because we have in some of our restaurants, we have AI busboys, which a little robot, which comes and picks up your plate and everything else. But if I want to bring an experience, and I think that's where we're going to get to, I think if you're really good in bringing people in and making them feel comfortable, AI can do that.
Human connection.
The human connection.
And you know I'm super passionate about that.
I honestly feel, if you look at it, we are over-connected yet under-related. And so for me, that's where it's at. So people will play their part on making people comfortable, making them architects of memories in a facility, and the food needs to be great. So, but where AI is going to be really good at is I make a recipe today. Mm-hmm. I can tell AI, hey, I switched this ingredient to this. Hey, I sauteed this a little bit longer. Hey, I added this. And it will create a database for me the next time AI is going to ask me, do you want to have the recipe this way or this way? And
like the standardized recipes.
Yeah, I think that absolutely is going to be phenomenal. Also, it's great is sometimes as managers or restaurant owners, we don't know what to do. So the great thing is, I believe AI, the more AI knows about you, AI can give you feedback. Hey, I can give you a rundown of what all of the employees are. Hey, this just happened. What should I do? And I think it will give you really accurate thing on how to manage it.
It can also help you write a really nice written warning for an employee when they have a cell phone in the dining room.
We encourage them to stay. We don't want to manage them out.
All right. Before we head to the commercial break, I just want to know, what was the hardest leadership decision you ever had to make in your career?
It's very simple. I had to fire my brother. So my brother worked.
Sounds like he had it coming.
No, I think he had it coming. No, because he was my brother. We have a vineyard back home, and the restaurant was under my name, so I felt a little bit hyper responsible.
Sure.
And as he came in, he always was dragging his feet, so I had to fire my brother. I'm not the proudest moment. I didn't do a good job firing him, to tell you the honest truth, but it was the hardest thing I ever did. And if somebody asked me that question today, I can tell exactly. It makes me feel exactly how I felt that day. It was not a good thing. I feel ashamed. Now we're friends, 25 years later, but yeah, I had to fire my brother.
That's why they say don't miss business with pleasure, right? Or family or anything. It's tough. But you had to do what you had to do. Okay, let's go to commercial break. Stay tuned. You're listening to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970 The Answer.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
Welcome back to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970, The Answer.
Welcome back to the show. I'm joined tonight by the amazing chef Christian J. Fischer. He has a great podcast called The Disruptive Chef and empowers industry people through his leadership and identity branding techniques. He helps chefs and founders elevate their business and personal brands, challenging them to disrupt conventional thinking. Chef, welcome back to the show.
I'm happy to be here.
That was a great first segment. Now I think we should talk about the cool podcast you're doing, The Disruptive Chef. Now, let me ask, was there a pivotal moment for you that moved you from traditional kitchen work to building your identity as the disruptive chef?
So if you ask people which worked for me, they said I was always the disruptive chef.
You were the disruptor? I've probably been called a disruptor once or twice in my life.
Same here. But for me, what really changed everything was COVID.
Yeah, for many people.
For me, it just exposed on how fragile the industry actually is. And it was hard for me to see my friends which do an amazing job every day, losing jobs. And for me, I felt hyper responsible to kind of create something. So
where were you working at that time?
So I was the chief culinary officer for Compass Group.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, I managed 3.6 billion in revenue.
Oh, that's
45,000 people. Yes,
slight work.
So it was one of those things. And COVID happened. A really good friend of mine called me. He since passed, but Joe called me.
Sorry to hear that.
And he said, Christian, thank you. We need to do something. We should do this online thing. I was like, what are you talking about? He says, we should do the talking thing. So we started a Zoom thing, and we called it a Culinary Executive Mastermind.
Wow.
It was just
sounds so official.
Yeah. And we were on from 9 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, live every day, 6 days a week. My kids actually said goodnight to him because they thought he was part of the family. So Joe and I were on, and if somebody called in, we said, hey, I think I need to introduce you to that guy. Or, hey, if I'm you, I would do this. And, hey, have you ever thought about this? And we kind of gave people advice. And from there, we actually created an actual mastermind where we had people being part of, like, of a smaller group. And then from there, we built all the tools people needed. So if somebody...
Yeah, but how did you get the word out about this?
So we really didn't.
Because that's a lot of time to fill.
So we just did it, and it was a word of mouth. And, at the height, we had 400 or 500 people on, and it was crazy. Yeah, it was this thing. Then we said, hey, how about we start building tools around it? And then somebody said, hey, I want to start this business. We were like, hey, if I'm you, I would do a one-page business plan. And people were like, I don't know how to create it. Don't worry about it. Give me 2 days. I send it to you.
Ask AI.
At the time, we didn't. So, but we created it. We sent it to them. And the first year, we had 167 gigabytes of data we put together for clients and for people which came onto the show. And we were laughing because I started out in a corner in my dining room. And then 2 years into it, my wife said, hey, there's this house empty down the street. I think you got to move out. And I moved into, I wanted to take just a small piece of the house. Now it's our office.
That's so cool.
At 1.3 miles from our house. That's how it kind of took shape. And
so is that where you're taping the podcast now?
Yeah.
Out of that other house?
Yes. So we've been there now almost 5 years. And so the master bedroom became our studio. So we have my offices in there. We created this makeshift studio. And so that's where we're taping all the shows. And about 2 years ago, I went to a friend of mine, Sean Walchef, Kali Barbecue Media, if you know him. And so I said, Sean, we have 17 different businesses. How can we spread the word that we do all of that? And his thing was, oh, it's simple. You need to be the show and not the commercial. I was like, I don't even know what that means. He said, you need to do a podcast. I was like, I don't like the way I sound on camera. I don't like the way I look. What else you got? He says, I'm telling you, you need to do a show. So we did the very first show. I invited a friend of mine, and he started out, his battery died on his computer. He came back in on the phone. It was a mess. And on purpose, we left it up there because I wanted people to see how we gotten better.
Yeah, the journey.
And so we were about 50 episodes in, and I said, there's nothing else to talk about. We talked of all of the things already. And at the time, my staff said, no, how about we create different segments? I was like, oh, seriously. So, and now we over 200 episodes, and it's amazing how...
Hey, when's my episode airing?
So you coming in 2 weeks.
Okay, I was like, we taped that. You were in Austria when you, like, literally a month or two ago.
Yes. So our thing was, there was a time we were working like 3-4 months in advance.
That's great, though.
And the very first show we taped live, it was a mess. And but it became so much fun. And for us, it's really simple. We know that everybody in the industry is passionate about something else outside of that.
Yeah.
So what we want to do, where the Disruptive Chef came in, is that we want to disrupt people's thinking. And so I want to bring people onto my show, and I, on purpose, spend a lot of time, we call it ethical stalking. We need a better name for that. But we have somebody from the staff follow you for 8-10 weeks to see if they find something wrong in what you say, so we get to know you.
So you were stalking me?
It's a terrible.
Not the first.
It's a terrible name. We need to work on that. So, but we started that. So for me, when I spoke with you, I had a very good idea of who you are because my team made me 4 pages of notes about you, and so when we bring somebody on, I want our audience to know that I did my research, that I think they're a great asset to the show, and they can learn something amazing about them. Because I honestly believe anybody in the industry needs to do something on the side which lights up their passion. And for me, Disruptive Chef was that tool. And so when we bring new people in which think a little bit different, which do a business, so I can tell you for 20 times, hey, do this, 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 and this. And then Christina comes on the show and she says the same thing as I did. And somebody says, oh, that is so amazing. I need to do that, and that's this thing. And I honestly believe when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And so it's as simple as that. So we want to bring amazing people onto the show, which have something really cool to say, or where we know our audience can learn a lot from it, because I honestly feel if we can help our audience not just learn something new, if we can disrupt their thinking and have them, give them another set of tools in their toolbox for them to do something absolutely amazing. And that became the show.
I think it's great. Present company excluded, what was one of your favorite episodes? Someone that you had on that you were just like, they blew me out of the water.
So we just very recent, I don't know if I can say his name yet. But he played at the NFL, a linebacker.
You have me intrigued.
He won American Ninja Warrior season 9.
Now you lost me. Ryan, are you following this?
He amazing.
Yeah, I'm trying to guess the guy.
Amazing.
Can't say it on air, but
Don't say it on air. But
amazingly good at it. What really connected with him was his parents kind of gave him up for adoption. He's African American. A white family adopted him, and what he is today is because of what he learned. He's an absolutely amazing human being. And so we actually doing a few other things. So we own a publishing company now. So we help people with publishing. We help people use the tool of media. So we have a media company now where we do other people's podcasts. And that all came out of, we want to start this show called The Disruptive Chef.
And people can listen to it on all the major streaming platforms.
So all the platform we just started a YouTube channel. So we have a YouTube channel. We have a designated website for that. And we have all 200 plus episodes out there. And it's on every major
That's great.
thing out there.
I know you have hundreds of thousands of listeners
we
in your
have
audience.
just
That's
shy of
amazing.
130,000, yeah.
That's great, Chef. Before we go to the last commercial break, Ryan, I think we have some time, right? In a world full of podcasts, because everyone has a podcast these days, what do you think sets yours apart?
So we do 3 things. We don't cut or do anything. If a dog barks, the dog barks. If the guy comes to dust the lawn, the guy doesn't come to dust the lawn. And if somebody's kid walks by, and we really don't care. So it's as raw as it gets. That's number one. The second thing is...
Well, that's not happening here. We're putting lipstick on a pig every day with this show.
And then the second thing for us was, I want them to feel that I did my research. And we actually working really hard that I have 2 or 3 things. When I asked that question, they were like, how does he know that? Kind of thing. So that's the second. And then we want to provide value to somebody who wants to look for something else. And that's for us what we're doing. And we started out, 90% of our audience was chefs, and now 90% of our audience are business owners. And if you would have told me that 2 years ago, I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And it's amazing how it has evolved. And we just had somebody on who has a partnership with Damian Johnson from a TV show. And I would have never met those people if it wouldn't be for our show.
I agree with that, right? It's just like the people that come your way for the show, you feel very honored to be able to share the room with them or share an hour with them. So that's great. I love your podcast for obvious reasons. But Chef, we're going to go to our last commercial break. When we get back, I have something up my sleeve for you that you're not even going to see coming. So stay tuned. You're listening to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970 The Answer.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
Welcome back to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970. The Answer.
Welcome back to the show. I'm joined again by the amazing chef Christian Fischer. Christian doesn't know it yet, but I'm about to turn the tables on him. When I was a guest on his podcast, The Disruptive Chef, we finished his show with a rapid-fire round of questions. He basically had a list of 25 questions prepared and had me pick a number between 1 and 25, and I would have to answer no matter what the question was. So, Chef Christian, get ready because we're doing that right now. You're in the hot seat.
I need to give you the honest answer. So we started this thing, rapid fire question, and then we did it for a few weeks. We really didn't hear anything, so we said we stop it. And then all of a sudden the audience said, you need to start.
I loved it. I thought it was so creative.
I was like, what are they talking about? We're asking questions. And somebody said, you need to do this. So I said, we need to fire it up. So we have now, I think, 83 questions. And so that's how technology great it is. So we take our 83 questions. We feed into the AI your personality. For you, I think we found 173 websites which mention you or you're on. So we feed all of this into one thing. And then we ask that thing to create questions for you. So the questions will probably be very personal for you. And so we're doing this for every single guest who comes on. And a lot of people saying, how did you know that? Or why did that come up? I was like,
Okay, well, mine are going to be a little more generic, but about, personal journeys for you and things like that.
Yep.
And some other fluff ones. I threw one in there that you had asked me. I was like, I hope he picks this number. All right, so pick a number between 1 and 25.
I like 18. Let's start with 18.
18. What is your biggest kitchen pet peeve?
That's really simple. If you come into the kitchen, when you cook and prep, apron up. When you serve, apron down. No apron, don't come into the kitchen because an apron makes a difference between a cook and a chef. So
Ooh, yes.
So it's really simple. We prep apron up, we serve apron down. That's my little thing.
I love that. I've actually never heard that before, and it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Great. Keep going. 1 to 25.
17.
Okay. What is the weirdest thing you've ever eaten? You're an international man, so I feel like it could get real weird.
I'm not super proud of that moment.
Okay.
I was in an international setting. They brought this table, and
where were you? I need the setting.
It was in Asia.
It's usually in Asia.
And they brought this round table, and it had a cover on it. And the head of the table takes the cover off. It's the head of a monkey. So we ate monkey brains. And
okay. I didn't think. I thought you were going to say like whale sperm or something because like they have that on the menu in Japan. Wow.
Yeah, that was. I was like, oh my god,
monkey brains. What does that taste like?
Just like chicken. No, I don't remember, but it was. Yeah, I'm not my proudest moment.
That was like a one and done.
Yeah, it was like the head was like kind of in it. It was shaved, and then when somebody took a piece, they put the top back on. It was just not. You
like put some chimichurri on that or something? Like how do
you just sampled it and then you washed it down with whatever. Yeah, it was just not. It was like a very honorful thing to do, and it was somebody for if you have a high level person come to sit with you, that's what you would do. It was just not a great thing. Yeah.
Wow. All right. I didn't see that one coming. Let's move on, Chef. 1 to 25.
Let's do 11.
11. I like that number. What is your favorite foodie city?
So for me, that's actually... that's really
anywhere in
hard.
the world, too.
So for me, I worked in Paris. I love Paris. My wife and I had some really amazing meals there. But it's actually here in the U.S. because if somebody asked me, what was the best meal you ever had? In Connecticut, there was this restaurant. It was called the Golden Lamb. So you walk there.
Where was it in Connecticut?
It's in Putnam, Connecticut. And you parked. They put you on the golf cart. They brought you into this sty, it was really, you could see the cows do whatever they're doing, and where you sat on is where the cow used to eat out of. And so they came and I ordered this stew, and they came at this giant bowl, had hay in it. They poured water on it, then they put the bowl into it, then they came and put the stew in it because they wanted you to have the full 360 ambiance. So you had the flavors from the stew, but you also had the aroma and the smell from the hay, which was in hot water.
Yeah.
It just blew me away. And the cool thing was all of the vegetables that I had at the lamb stew, they were all cooked separately, and they kind of brought together in the dish. So everything had a separate texture. Everything had a separate flavor. It was one of the best things I ever had.
Would you say they were an architect of memories
they
at
sure
that
were.
restaurant?
Yes. That's probably was the start of it. And there's another place in Vermont where we had a similar kind of experience, but that Golden Lamb, they've since been out of business, but an amazing place. Yeah.
When did they close? During COVID, like everyone else?
Just before COVID, yeah.
That it reminds me of a place up in Westchester, Blue Hill, right? Similar, like interactive experience with like growing things on the land and just eating it at the restaurant on
site. And the cool thing was, it was a 9-course menu, and you could go on a hay ride. You walked around, and was this family experience. It was absolutely amazing.
I love it. Great. I guess we'll never experience it. All right, pick another number, Chef.
22.
22, good number. Okay, what's one thing restaurants must do to stay relevant? It's a very transient industry.
So for me, it's really simple. You don't need to do more because for me you need to become hyper local and hyper focused on what your guests want. And do it better than anybody else. And I think the days of having 200 things on the menu are gone. You only need 15 menu items or 10, but make them absolutely spectacular and have them change every day. And have the full experience when you come in. People call you by name. They know you. And for me, that's what you need to do. You need to become hyper-local and do something what you know you can do consistently really, really well and do it better than anybody else.
Right. And, we spoke about that on your show about consistency, right? Consistency makes millionaires. I always say that.
Yeah.
And just, again, the human connection.
Yeah.
Restaurants aren't difficult. Yeah. If we dumb them down a little, it's like you're inviting someone in for a meal, just deliver on all levels.
That. So I grew up in a hotel. My parents owned a hotel for almost 60 years. And we had this guy, Peter. He was our dining room manager at the time. When Peter had a conversation with you, he always walked out on the bar. And, it was, it's Peter. And then one day I asked him, what are you doing? He says, watch this. And there was somebody in there sitting and says, he pulled out this whole stack of things. He put the date down. What did he just heard? What did he hear? What did they say? So now he says, when I know they're coming, I kind of read up on it. And I say, hey, how is your dog? How is this? And people, I was so taken back by that because it was like, how does he remember that? How does he know that?
Right, before open table notes
Correct.
were a thing.
And he did this on cards, the little, index cards. And he had a stack of them of everybody. And he always, when he heard something, he ran out, wrote it down. It was absolutely amazing.
He was a pioneer.
Yeah.
Just to touch on growing up in Austria, I talked about it a little bit in the intro. In my head, you were living like The Sound of Music.
The funny thing is I didn't know what The Sound of Music was until I came to the U.S.
Really?
So for me, I grew up in Innsbruck, which is the setting not far from where the music was taped. I never heard of it. And so for us, it was... after school, we had to work the restaurant. That's just the way it was. And we were a seasonal restaurant. We opened up the last week in May, and we closed the last week in May, and we opened up the first week in September. That's when snow came. And we had snow, 8-9 months a year. And so we just worked. And then for me, I opened up my first restaurant at 19. And that
Rest is
started it all.
history.
Yeah.
That's great. How much time we have left, Ryan? I want to see how many more questions we can get in. What do you think?
So we could probably got about 5-6 minutes
okay.
more.
Yeah.
All right, let me get
Definitely
one or
enough
two.
time for a couple more
Okay,
questions.
let me get one or two in. Give me another number, chef.
Yeah, 25.
Most underrated ingredient.
Oh, that's really simple. So for me, it's a shallot. Because
I love a shallot.
a shallot, if you do things right, it works great for cold dishes, it works great for warm dishes, it works great in sauces.
Yeah.
I think people need to use a shallot more often than use it right.
I agree with that. And you know what's funny? I just got back from France a couple weeks ago, and they make a lot of their vinaigrette dressings. They dice some shallots in it. So I bought this mustard seed in France because I had this mustard seed and shallot vinaigrette there that I was obsessed with. So I bought this nice mustard seed, and I brought it home. I'm home not even one day. I'm in the kitchen. I'm making this vinaigrette. I'm dicing the shallot really tiny and thin. I'm whisking in the mustard, the vinegar. I'm putting the oil in. I put it in the refrigerator. The next day, my son knocks it over onto the floor by accident, getting orange juice out. The whole thing shatters on the ground. I cried over a shallot and mustard.
So,
but it's so good, and it adds such a subtle, nice flavor to things.
I couldn't agree with you more. And for me, a dish, it can make a dish. It can make a great dish exceptional. And it's as simple as that. And then that reminds me. So send me a note. I will give you one of our new books. It's called Recipes for the Brave, where we researched the 60 most popular bar drinks, made a new version of that bar drink, and also made a salad dressing out of the bar drink.
Ooh, that sounds great. I will send you a note. Thank you, chef. All right, give me one more number.
Number 7.
What's the first dish you ever cooked?
So growing up in Austria, my very first dish I learned how to do well was a Wiener Schnitzel. So Wiener Schnitzel is a breaded veal cutlet, really simple. My dad at the time said, you know, what you need to do is you need to take pork, you need to take turkey and make it great. And make it delicious. And for me, I didn't know how it went. So for me, I took the egg wash, I put mustard and flavors and stuff in it because in my mind was like, oh, it's all in the crust.
Yeah.
You know, and not in the meat itself. But that was my thing, and loved that. And actually, my restaurant was called Schnitzleck, was based on that. And we did Wiener Schnitzel 9 different ways. So.
Ooh. Let's bring that back. That sounds tasty. Chef, this was so great. What an easy hour this was. I really enjoyed having you in studio, and shout out to your daughter who you brought with you, Margie. Thank you for coming in. Hope you have a safe trip home. So check out the Disruptive Chef Podcast, available on all major streaming platforms. Thank you for listening to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates, Sunday nights at 9 p.m. on AM 970 The Answer. Thank you to my guest tonight, Chef Christian J. Fischer. I'm so happy we were able to get together in person after all of these months. You are an absolute delight, and I'm just grateful to know you.
No, I really appreciate it. And for me, it's all about providing value. So what I want to do for you and for your team, if anybody on the podcast writes my name or links me, I will send them a copy of my new book, The 10 Things I Learned to Get Great in What I Do. So it's an ebook, and we call it Culinary Kung Fu, because my oldest daughter did Kung Fu, and I realized, Kung Fu is just like cooking. It's doing one thing 4,000 times until it becomes repetitious, and it's not that you do 4,000 things one time. So we wrote Culinary Kung Fu. So anybody from your audience who sends us a note, we're happy to send them a free version of Culinary Kung Fu.
That's great. We never have people giving things out on our show. This is fantastic. Okay, tune in next week. I'll be joined by a husband and wife duo, Kevin and Janine Fenton. They both operate major branded hotels in the tri-state area. Kevin operates as the general manager and Janine as the director of sales and catering, but for different hotels. They don't work together anymore. The topic for this show will be the business of private dining within the hotel landscape. Private dining in hotels is important because it serves as a strategic revenue driver, an experience enhancer, and a differentiator in an increasingly competitive hospitality landscape. Kevin and Janine have been in the game a long time and have both worked for top hotel groups throughout their careers. They're going to be a wealth of knowledge, and I can't wait to get them in the studio with me. They're personal friends of mine, so this is going to be a good one. But that's the show for tonight. Thanks for listening, and have a great night.
The preceding program is sponsored by Shake It Off Live, LLC.